the consequences of doing a personality test. You start to become self-aware. This is the major benefit, and I will share you why this is so important. I will also share what I did, in my case in Notion, and what I recommend doing for yourself. I will also share other things beside the personality test that I highly recommend doing, such as a strengths, weaknesses, likes and dislikes quadrant, other personalities tests, and I will share you the one that I like the most. By the way, it's free as well. And then this is really interesting because you can start to see which celebrities have the same personality type. But you can also start to see, after you ask this from friends that you know for a long time, and especially your parents, brothers and sisters, other family members that of course you know for a very, very long time. And you can start to make comparisons between their personality type and the personality type of yourself. Or, for example, what I do is when I look for a specific role, I compare and ask the applicants what their personality type is. So I can start to make comparisons. Let's say my mother is this specific personality type and the applicant has the same personality type. I can start to ask, okay, how would my mother react in this scenario that is most likely to occur in this role, in this position within my company? And then I can start to see, okay, is that the way I want this person to act, behave? And of course, everyone is different, but you can make assumptions. And if you know that this personality type is very introvert and it's very important for this role to be extrovert, you can start to filter out people based on that already. So this is really interesting and one of the benefits. So let's get started. You become much more self-aware, and this is important. A big reason that helped me a lot is knowing what I'm naturally good at, what I became good at as well. Those are two different things, but also the things that I'm not good at the moment. So I can start to see, okay, do I want to improve those things? If not, I want to find people that are naturally good at my weaknesses. And this is so important because you want to find people that are good where you are weak. If you don't, you make a lot of mistakes. And when you hire people, for example, employees that are good where you're naturally not good at. So right now I'm hiring for an executive assistant, and I've studied the role in depth, and I really get much more clear of what I'm looking for in personality types, personality tests. Becoming self-aware of myself really helped in getting clear of what I'm looking for in this role. And I think, by the way, executive assistant is one of the first hires you should make. I haven't hired one yet, so disclaimer there, but I'm looking at the moment for a great executive assistant. If you know someone, let me know. But I get much more clear on what I'm looking for, because for that role, you want to find someone. I've heard a lot that people look for people for an executive assistant that is complementary to what they are really not good at. But it's also, you have to connect with that person because you have to like the person, and you want to make sure you can talk to the person because you have to. It's a person that you maybe have to speak daily with, and if you don't like the person, you won't communicate that well, which is not great for the relationship, and you won't set that person up for success. So you have to like the person, but executive assistant aside, you have to become self-aware of yourself, because you can start to find people that are good at where you're not good at, and you can start to focus on your strengths. You can start to focus on tasks that you are good at, because that naturally makes you feel the best. I've noticed myself, at least. So when you look at this is my Notion page, and when you look at what I've done here is I do these tests each 6 months now. Before it was each year, and I highly recommend doing this every year at least. I do it now myself every 6 months, and I start to see things change. I answer questions differently. And I want to make a big disclaimer with personality tests. They're great to do. It's really good to become self-aware of yourself, but you will change. If you don't change, I really believe you're not growing as a person. The more often you change, the better, I think. So as you can see, you also see my personality type change over the years. Not so much though, but it changes. And the big disclaimer here is really, if you start to say to yourself, I'm an introvert, you really believe you will stay an introvert. If you want to become more extroverted, for whatever reason, and you keep saying to yourself you're an introvert, of course that won't help. So what I really noticed is, as a leader, in my case, as a CEO of my company, you have to change. Your whole personality has to change. If I was the same person I was 6 years ago, when it all started, then I wouldn't be a great leader. So you have to change. Otherwise, you will see it in your results. So if you say to yourself, I'm this personality type, I've been always like this, well, that's fine for you, but it may limit you in areas where you need to grow in order to become a great leader. Because great leaders have character traits that are common amongst all the great leaders. And I can make a whole video about that. But if you say to yourself, I'm not willing to get those traits, well, guess what? You won't become a great leader. Because you need those skills. If you don't want to become a leader and just an owner, well, that's different. But still, you need certain skills for that as well. Because in the end, we all need people to grow a very big, large company. We need great people, and therefore you need to be a great leader. Otherwise, they will never work for you. So that's one of the major benefits of doing a personality type, to know what you're good at and where you need to improve, or where you want to find people, or both. Of course, you can start to improve on things. So for me, I'm very not good at being empathetic. So I don't have a lot of empathy. And there's one side of me that says I don't want to have a lot of empathy, because that comes with a lot of problems as well. And I don't like being very empathetic, because in the cases where I need to be very empathetic, it doesn't feel authentic, because I'm not. I don't want to really improve on it as well, because I have a clear, I have a very clear mindset on certain things, so I can't really relate to certain people. But that hinders me. That definitely is a block in my growth as a leader, because I have to work with my team. I have employees, and if I can't relate to their current problems, well, guess what? They will stop working for me in the end. Well, not right away, but if it doesn't work, and I've made a lot of mistakes because of my weakness, which in my case is empathy. So I need at least someone in my team that has a lot of empathy. So that person can make sure that our other team members feel heard, that they feel that they're being listened to. So as you can see in this picture, you see that, and I will share the best personality test that I've tried, and I've tried a lot, is 16 personalities, and it's free. So I highly recommend going to that website and doing a personality test after this video. It doesn't take too much time. It only takes 10 minutes. But you will get 5 scores out of basically 10 areas. So you get introvert, extroverted, observant versus intuitive, thinking versus feeling, judging versus prospective, and assertive versus turbulent. If I all say them correctly, but I believe I do. Introvert, extrovert, I think it's really interesting and already clear what that means. But I really like this test. Highly recommend you doing so. And what you start to see after you do the test as well is you start to see which celebrity types have the same personality as you. So in my case, those are Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Tim Cook, Kendall Jenner, and others as well. So I will share you a little bit more detail. So after you finish your test, you come up to your page, which you get your own profile URL, and you can start to see like what you are. And I highly recommend reading all of this. Take the time, you can watch this video and then click off again. Maybe you already clicked off, all the people that already clicked off, they clearly don't have a high attention span. If you're still watching, make sure you read this. You read your personality type and make notes. I use Notion. I love Notion, but write it down. Make notes when you read this, like of the most important things. Write down what you're good at, what you're not good at, and all your findings in here. Make notes of it. Because if you don't, you probably don't remember most of the things, and then it's just doing something that is forgotten. I come back to this page that I've showed you, my self-aware page, often. Especially when I'm looking to hire people, specific roles, I come back to the self-aware page. So I really know, okay, for this role, it's really important that we get someone like this, because of my experience in certain situations where I currently fulfill that role or someone else in a team fulfilled that role before. So when you come to this page, you will also start to see in here other celebrities that have the same personality type. Another thing that I checked as well is Truity, which I really like. Once you go to this page, personality type, and then one of the personality types in here, you can start to see overview strengths. You can also read that, but of course very similar to what you read in here already. But you can start to look for careers, and this really helped me with employees. So of course this is not this doesn't work for everyone, because I've checked mine as well, ISTG, and it's not the best career choices. I'm very creative, and this is not a creative personality type based on what they say. So in here they highly discourage me to become an art director. Well, in fact, I really like that role. I like to be to create things. So but it helps in general to find out, okay, this person, an ISTG, for example, which is me at the moment, based on the personality types, is someone who's really focused on data and structure and those things. And knowing that from a person, you can be a chameleon, this animal that changes colors in their environment. You can start to communicate with different people, because everyone is different. You can start to speak their love language. So that's a great thing that I highly recommend you do as well. Find out your own love languages. Like, what is it for you? What is your love language? Or what are your love languages if you have multiple? And share that with your partner. But also, you have to, I read this book from Patrick Bet-David. I just finished it, which is Your Next 5 Moves. And I highly recommend reading the book. There's a lot of practical things, and one of them is knowing the love languages of your employees, but also the people around you, like family members and your partner, of course. It's very important. By knowing those, you can really make sure that and just ask them, I'm going to ask my mother, like, out of these 5, which one do you like the most? So I know that from now. So if it's gift giving, well, I can give a lot of gifts. But if it's not, then maybe I should not give gifts, but I maybe should give her a hug, because she values that much more. And knowing these things, because everyone is different, and make sure you just become a much better leader, friend, partner. You have to understand people. In order to understand people, you have to understand yourself first. So that's why it's so important to do personality tests, but not just only that. Also focus on your strengths, weaknesses, likes and dislikes. So as you can see, I did that for myself. I won't share you all my strengths, weaknesses, likes and dislikes. By the way, be careful with who you share your weaknesses with, especially your weaknesses, because other people might take advantage of it. So that's why I'm not sharing all my weaknesses. And what I found really interesting is most people don't know their weaknesses. They don't know what they're not good at, what they're really... They don't know their weaknesses, or not much, and I noticed this during the hiring process. So I ask each applicant at the moment, so that changes over time as well, but I currently ask each applicant, what is their personality type? I ask them to take the 16 personalities test and to send me the results. And I also later ask, I ask them this specifically, like, what are your strengths, weaknesses, likes and dislikes? in a professional setting. So you can do this professionally, but also personally, in your personal life. Most people just don't know their weaknesses. They can only name a few, which is interesting. It makes sense because most people don't know themselves. So start to get to know yourself, because again, you can start to look for people who are good at what you're not good at. And guess what? That makes you much happier, because you can really focus on the things you're good at, because you have someone else that can focus on the things they're good at. So find at least one person in your life, an employee later on, if you start your own business, or you have your own business, that you have someone who's really the opposite of you in a lot of things. You have to find some common ground somewhere. You have to like the person if it's an executive assistant. But this is really interesting, because if you now dislike certain things, I've mentioned it already. If you want to grow and you need certain things in your situation, in my case, being a great leader requires me to be more empathetic. So what I learn now is to listen more, because I can't really relate to a lot of things. Or sometimes I just talk too quick. That's what I've noticed. That's one of my mistakes. And if you notice it yourself as well, if you talk too quick, and you also not so empathetic, then listen more. So don't respond, because if you start to respond and you don't relate to that person, you will probably not give the right communication. You will not give the right signs. So just listen, because most cases, just listening is already enough. And then get back later, even though your team member, let's say, if your family member asks you something, you don't have to respond right away. You can say, let me think about that, and get back later. This is one big mistake. If you watch my video about Elon Musk and the lessons he shared, when you start to look at him as a person, in his interviews as well, that's where I noticed it. He doesn't respond to questions if he doesn't know much about the topic. He just says, I'm not aware of this. I don't know much about this topic. So that's just another side note. And highly recommend listening more, talking less in a lot of situations, especially where you don't feel the other person. So I've already mentioned this. This is another test that I did, and there's a lot of them out there. I still think that 16 Personalities is the best out there. It's really great what they do, and it's still great that it's really free as well. But I also tried this one, and in this one, it's great to make notes. Not everything applies to you, but make notes. And when you make those notes, I highly recommend keeping maybe 2 pages, one that you can share with others. So one of the things I will do is, once I've hired my executive assistant, I will share everything about me with that person as quickly as possible. I will talk about it in the calls, but I will also share the Notion page, so he or she can read through it and really understand me on a deeper level quickly, which is very important in that role. So I don't recommend doing this for everyone in your company if you have your own business. And I highly recommend also making notes of other people. So in my case, with team members, what are their love languages, but also what are their main motivators? Are they motivated and driven by money? Well, guess what? You don't want to give them other incentives than money. You really want to focus on, okay, this person wants a lot of money because that really motivates that person. How can I make sure I give it incentives? Or can help that person earn more money? Because if you speak their love language, which in this case, that person really wants to earn more money, or their motivation, you understand what they're really driven by, and you start to speak that way, the person feels heard. The person can relate, and they feel listened. They want to work for you because you understand what they're looking for, and you show them how they can make that happen in your company, for example. I talk a lot about business because I'm a business owner, and I hope you have a business as well, or you want to start one. I think it's one of the best ways to become wealthy. I don't believe you can become very wealthy in a normal job, but that's aside for now. I highly recommend making notes of yourself and trying different personality tests, but if you can only do one, take 10 minutes and do the 16 personality test after this video. Start to make notes, do the strength and weaknesses, likes and dislikes quadrant as well. Just think, sit down for like 1 hour, 30 minutes, take the time to understand yourself. It helps me in so many situations, but make notes so you can read it back later, because I forget things, you forget things. But making notes already helps you remember it better. You can go back to it, you can share it with others. So those are just a few benefits of why you want to do this somewhere in a central place that you can share with others. And other celebrities. So I already mentioned that you can start to make comparisons. So in this case, I will share you a website. So I highly recommend going to this website as well and checking the personality that you have after you did the test, and then looking for celebrities within that in that personality type. So in here I found out that Warren Buffett is most likely, because this is not accurate, Warren Buffett hasn't done the test and shared it here, but these are votes. People think they've studied him and they think he's an ISTG as well. This is so interesting. This gives you a lot of insights as well. You can start to find the opposite of your character and start to ask questions. Like, how would Elon Musk do this in my situation? I had a great conversation a few days ago in the gym with one of my friends, and he mentioned this. It brings me to the idea of the mental board of advisors, which I will probably make a video about as well. Like, make sure you have when you have a very difficult situation and you don't know what to do, think of multiple people, but maybe just two. One that has the same personality type and one that has the complete opposite. Or people that you just admire and you look up to. That's what I do. And how would they respond in this situation? What would they do? What would a person like this do? What would a billionaire do is a question, but that's more difficult because it's more general. So if I know a specific personality type that I've watched on YouTube, watched on wherever, read articles about, read books from, I know much better what that person will say or do or act. So a great tip is finding some celebrities is maybe not the right word, but I now know that Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos. So I ask sometimes questions, how would Jeff Bezos do this? But also other people that I know much more about, like Alex Hormozi, for example, is a great inspiration of me, but also Patrick Bet-David and Elon Musk. Those are people I look up to. So I ask myself questions. How would they respond in this situation? And I highly recommend you doing so as well. So that's a story for a completely different video, but make a list of people that you look up to as well and start to doing this. And finally, just do this more often. Don't just do this once, but at least take the time to become self-aware, really self-aware of yourself. And you do that by taking notes. You don't do that by doing this test, reading a little bit through it, and that's it. Of course you can. But that will not give you like everything from the test. Gives you only like a very small percentage. So take notes and do this at least every year. And in my case, I change so often. I have to change so often in order to become a great leader for my team. I need to do this. I do this every 6 months, and I recommend doing that as well. If you are a leader, if you lead a company, do it more often. Start to become self-aware. You can start to attract and find the best people. You can tell them what you're not good at, so they know, and they, of course, if they are good at it, they can take over that part of you. And you have a better understanding of each other. That helps a lot as well, especially with employees, but also family members. My family members know that I don't have a lot of empathy. I'm also very driven, but also hard-headed. So they know that of me. So they accepted it better. They accepted it better. So sharing that information with people around you that you communicate often with, that need to know it, just find those person around you that need to know those things about you and just share that with them. That's the best thing to do. Will help you a lot, and I hope this video was valuable. I hope you're still watching. If you are, Good stuff. You have a high attention span and you will become successful. Especially because you're watching this video still. And I believe this is a valuable video. I only make videos that I think are valuable. I try to, at least. And do this. Start doing the personality test now. And see you on the next video.